Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here, and I want to talk about fixed blade knives versus folding knives and which one I prefer when it comes to everyday carry. Because I had a comment recently in one of my knife reviews from a longtime subscriber actually, and he said that he actually prefers fixed blade knives, and most of my knife reviews are actually on folding knives, and that's for a good reason. It's because I don't really have that many fixed blade knives. In fact, most of the fixed blade knives that I have are like knives like this, which is a hunting knife. I have a set of knives that I got for Christmas. It was made by Mossy Oak, and it had, 3 knives and a saw. And this is just the smallest knife that's in it. In fact, this one could use another cleaning. I used this one this last deer season, but this is the smallest one, and really the only one that's a suitable size for actually carrying if I ever were to choose to carry this. But this is just an example of what most of my fixed blade knives are. And like I said, this is a Mossy Oak fixed blade knife that came out of a hunting knife set. It doesn't have a sheath or anything, so really you can't carry this unless you found a good sheath to go with it, but I assume that if you did find one, this would be a suitable option for that. But I don't ever plan on carrying it. So obviously the advantage of fixed blade knives is that you don't have to flick the knife blade out, and they're very strong. So if you look here, probably my favorite everyday carry knife that I carried for many, I wouldn't say many years, but 2 or 3 years, I carried this in my pocket pretty much every day. This is a SOG Fielder, and this is just a standard folding knife, but this is what I would carry. And obviously it takes a little bit of time to actually pull the blade out, so if you ever had to pull it out for self-defense, it's going to take a couple seconds, or at least a second, to flick that blade out versus a fixed blade knife that you just pull out of the sheath and you're ready to go. So that's an obvious advantage. The other advantage is the strength of the blades, or the whole design rather. So obviously a folding knife, you have a joint here, which this is a weak spot, so if you had to stab someone or something, the chances of this breaking are far greater than the chances of a fixed blade knife breaking. So that's another thing to keep in mind. However, most of the time a folding knife is going to be significantly smaller and easier to carry than a fixed blade knife. Now, I do have this knife here, and I don't even really know where I got this from, like my grandma or something. This is not a knife that I would actually carry, but it's just kind of a little cute knife that we found, and I don't know if it was my grandma or my great-grandma's, but somebody's belongings. When after they passed, we kind of went through their stuff, and this was in it. But check that out. That's a little bitty fixed blade knife. It's kind of like a toy. It's not a toy. It's a real metal knife. I don't really know how good of an edge something like this would have, but obviously you can get fixed blade knives to be pretty small. However, as you can see here, you can't get a full hand on it. You can get two fingers on it. This really isn't a usable knife, in my opinion, for or self-defense or everyday carry. But obviously it can cause some damage if you did stick somebody with it, if you had to. The other knife, well, actually I do have another one somewhere. It's a bayonet, but again, that's a really large knife. The other big knife that I have is this Buck 119, and I mainly bought this to be a prop in a horror slasher type of video that I did for college. And it's a pretty good knife for that. It's a Buck 119, so very similar to the knife used in Scream, all the Scream movies. And that's why I chose it, is because they use a 120, I think, in those movies, which is a little bit bigger, but this one's smaller and cheaper and easier to find. So I went with this one, and really that's all I use this for. I did try to use this to carve a pumpkin, just to be kind of funny. For Halloween. It didn't work out too well because the knife blade is actually really thick, and you need a little bit thinner knife to actually carve a pumpkin, so that didn't work out too well. That's really the only thing I've ever used this for. Now, this obviously would be a good hunting knife, a good camping knife. It would definitely be a good defensive knife, although I think there are legalities when it comes to carrying a knife and how long the blade can be. This is a 6-inch blade, so I'm not sure if that would actually be legal, or even if it is legal in certain areas, it probably wouldn't be legal in, say, California, the communist state of California, or New York, or New Jersey, or, one of those states. But again, this isn't really a knife I would carry every day for defense. This is more of a hunting or a camping knife, or even just, a defensive knife to carry with you when you're in the woods, not necessarily walking around the city with something like this. But man, that is a really good knife, by the way. I really, really like this knife. Just put that one back in the sheath there. So mainly what I carry are folding knives, and I already showed you the SOG. Now, mainly these days, what I carry on me all the time is one of these little Sheffield folding utility knives. It's very small and compact. Just compare it to the SOG. As you can see, it's quite a bit shorter in length. So they're pretty small and compact. They're like this little egg shape, oval shape, and it's just a folding utility knife. I carry this most of the time because of work, because I work in shipping and receiving, and I deal with, opening boxes, cutting up boxes all the time, and so I need a good sharp knife for cutting up tape and cardboard and things like that. So I typically carry this most of the time, and it's just a real pain to carry two knives on your person, especially if you're carrying them in the same pocket. So that's typically what I carry most of the time. I do carry this when I go squirrel hunting or hunting in general. This is a knife that I either carry in my pocket or just on my bag. This is a Milwaukee Fastback, and it's not a spring assist or anything, but it is a fast deploying knife. You just have this button here and you just flick it out. So it's a faster deploying knife than either of the other two that I just showed you, but still not as fast as obviously a fixed blade where you just pull it out. But this is a pretty good knife, and they have these in several different configurations. And this is just a pretty cool knife in my opinion. It's not very expensive. It's like, I don't know, $15 or something, so not too expensive. It's cheaper than, or it was cheaper than the SOG, which was like $20. The only other knife I chose to bring out was this. This is like a Chinese Italian stiletto spring assist. It's not a switchblade. It just looks like a switchblade, where you have this little tab right here and you flick it out like that. So it is a spring assist, not an actual switchblade, but it is still pretty cool. It is a good, fast deploying knife, and it does have a clip on it, so you could use this for everyday carry, and it would be a decent option. I'm not exactly sure the quality on it compared to some other knives, but out of the two spring assist knives that I have, this one is definitely the more user-friendly. The other one I have is not so user-friendly, so I didn't choose to bring that one out. So this is just another type of folding knife that I have. And it's like I said, it's not that good of quality, but it is a good looking knife, and so I keep it around for that. I got that one for Christmas this year. As far as in the future, will I ever get myself a folding knife in the future for everyday carry? I do kind of consider it. I don't know a whole lot about them, who all makes them and what all different models there are. I'm sure there are a ton, a ton maybe that have like wood handles, and some have more tactical handles. So I'll have to take a look into that and see if I can find one that's affordable, I might give it a try and do an update on that. Because, like I said, this one subscriber said that he does prefer a fixed blade knife, and I can see, I definitely do see some advantages to the fixed blades. Other than the fact that they're just, by nature, they're usually a bigger knife when you have a comparable blade size to one of these folding knives. Obviously, they're going to be a bit bigger and maybe a little bit harder to carry, but there are definitely some advantages in strength and speed. And so for that, I'll probably look into getting one, probably something around the size of this one. That's probably the ideal size, not necessarily the size of the blade, but the overall length of the actual knife itself. This size would probably be a good size to start out with. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to use something like that, and you probably wouldn't want to use something like that. But, something in that medium size range would be a good option. So I'll be on the lookout for one of those, and if I ever find one that I like and I buy it, I'll obviously do a review on it, and may do some comparisons and say maybe carry it for a little while and tell you all what I think about it. But anyway, that is my video on fixed blade versus folding knives and my opinions on that. So subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.